Hey folks, pull up a chair because I'm about to spill the tea on the biggest suburban nightmare that ever hit Pinecrest Meadows. You know the type of place. White picket fences so perfect they look photoshopped, lawns mowed to military precision, and every mailbox flying the same American flag like we're all in some HOA-approved patriotic cult. From the outside it screamed, American Dream. Inside, it was a slow-motion horror show run by one woman who thought the neighborhood charter was her personal Bible and she was the only prophet allowed to preach it. That woman was Regina Hawthorne, or Reggie, as she demanded everyone call her with that fake sweet smile. She was the HOA president, clipboard glued to her hand like it was an extension of her arm, and she patrolled our streets like a prison warden checking for escaped inmates. Grass too long? Fine. Mailbox decal peeling? Fine. Someone parked their car 2 inches over the invisible line she drew in her head? Oh honey, you'd get a certified letter before your coffee got cold. Reggie loved to lecture about shared values and protecting property values, but what she really protected was her own little kingdom of control. Ryan and Lauren Kessler had moved into their corner lot on Maple Lane 2 years earlier looking for exactly that quiet dream. Ryan was a civil liberties consultant who'd spent 15 years suing big companies for trampling people's rights. He'd taken a step back when Lauren's world fell apart. A brutal car accident left her with spinal damage that required major surgery and months of recovery. She spent most days in the master bedroom they'd specially outfitted with a wide bay window so sunlight could pour in and make her feel human again. Ryan had built half that house himself with his late father's old tools. Every nail, every beam placed with the idea that this place would be their safe harbor, not some HOA playground. At first the neighborhood seemed welcoming. Block parties with those overpriced HOA-sponsored cookies, kids riding bikes, everyone waving like we were in a Hallmark movie. Then the little thing started. A notice taped to their door about unauthorized vegetation, because Ryan had been too busy helping Lauren to trim the roses exactly to Reggie's sacred 2.5-inch rule. Another warning about visible medical equipment, visible from the street, as if Lauren's walker was somehow lowering everyone's resale value. Ryan paid the fines quietly. He was the patient type, the guy who watched and waited. But inside he was already taking notes. Lauren tried to laugh it off at first. It's just paperwork, babe, she'd say from her bed, voice still weak from the pain meds. But her eyes told a different story every time another envelope showed up. She hated feeling like a burden. Ryan would sit beside her, holding her hand, telling her stories about the cases he'd won against bigger bullies than Reggie. He never raised his voice. He just started documenting dates, photos, every ridiculous citation. Then came the day everything snapped. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon. Lauren had a private meeting scheduled in the master bedroom with a state civil rights investigator who'd come to discuss disability accommodations and potential grants for home modifications. The door was closed. No one had been told because, well, it was private medical stuff. Ryan was downstairs making tea when he heard the front door open without a knock. Reggie marched straight up the stairs like she owned the mortgage. Clipboard in one hand, keys to half the neighborhood in the other. She shoved the master bedroom door open so hard it banged against the wall. You can't have guests like this without reporting them, she snapped, eyes scanning the room like she was looking for contraband. This is a clear occupancy violation, plain and simple. There sat Lauren in her bed, pale and fragile, clutching the state documents. Across from her was the investigator, a woman in a sharp blazer with the state seal on her lapel. Reggie didn't even blink. She just kept talking like she was the law. You didn't file the guest form. That's a breach. I'm citing Section 7C right now. Ryan took 2 calm steps into the room. His voice never rose, but it cut like a scalpel. You're citing occupancy clauses, Reggie. But I'm curious. What statute gives you the right to barge into a private bedroom during a protected meeting with a state official? Reggie froze mid-sentence, lips parted like a fish yanked out of water. The investigator didn't say a word. She didn't need to. The gold state seal on her folder caught the light like a spotlight on Reggie's stupidity. Ryan kept going, quiet but deadly. This wasn't just a guest. This was a confidential consultation under state disability protections. You just walked into a protected space without consent, without a warrant, without even a knock. That's not a violation of our rules. That's a violation of the law. Reggie's face went from smug to stunned in half a second. She tried to backpedal with that fake smile. I was just doing my job for the community. Ryan cut her off smooth as silk. Your job doesn't include trespassing into someone's recovery room while they're discussing medical rights. My wife didn't ask for this fight, but she married a man who knows exactly how to finish it. Lauren gave the tiniest nod from the bed, eyes shining with a mix of fear and pride. Reggie backed out, muttering something about following up with the board, but the damage was done. The investigator quietly noted the incident on her tablet. Ryan closed the door behind Reggie with a soft click that sounded louder than any slam. That night, the neighborhood group chat started buzzing with whispers. Someone had seen Reggie's car. Someone else had heard raised voices. Ryan didn't post a word. He just sat at his desk, adding the time-stamped photos of the open bedroom door to his growing folder. He knew people like Reggie didn't retreat. They regrouped with more paperwork. And he was ready. The next morning, the envelope was taped to their front door like a death notice. HOA compliance violation. Unauthorized government interaction on residential premises. Reggie had spun the story already, claiming the state investigator was some kind of unreported political operative threatening community standards. Lauren held the paper in her lap, hands trembling slightly. They're accusing me of what? Treason? She whispered with a weak laugh that broke Ryan's heart. He laid the notice flat on the kitchen island and started a new section in his binder. They're grasping, he said softly. But we're not playing their game anymore. Later that afternoon, Ryan walked down to the community clubhouse for one of Reggie's infamous compliance education sessions. The room smelled like stale coffee and fear. Reggie stood at the front in her perfectly pressed navy blazer, flipping through PowerPoint slides titled Surveillance and Accountability. This neighborhood was built on shared responsibility, she cooed. That means we report irregularities, even from people we think we can trust. Her eyes flicked straight to Ryan for half a second, then back to her smile. After the meeting, a young board member named Marcus Reed lingered by the exit. Clean haircut, nervous energy. Ryan, he muttered, you okay? They stepped outside where no one could hear. Marcus glanced around like he was about to commit treason himself. She's been pushing these secondary reviews on anyone who questions her. Cameras going up everywhere. She calls it protection. I call it a power trip. Ryan didn't push. He just nodded. Tell me something, Marcus. Did you know she was going to walk into my wife's bedroom? Marcus's face went pale. She said it was a routine exterior check. Ryan smiled without warmth. Next time she says that, she might walk in on someone changing a catheter or saying goodbye to their last good day. Marcus looked at his shoes. The crack was there. That evening, Ryan walked the perimeter of the neighborhood. Every third house now had new HOA-approved cameras pointing at sidewalks. Lot 14 had a shiny new sign. Compliance Monitored Zone. The air felt tighter, like the whole place was holding its breath. When he got home, Lauren was by the bay window, heating pad on her lap. You're playing with fire, she said softly. Ryan kissed her forehead. I'm counting on it. The next escalation came at 7:14 a.m. An email titled Secondary Exterior Review ordered. Four other families got the same notice. All of them had either spoken up or refused some petty fine in the last 6 months. Reggie wasn't pretending it was random anymore. Ryan printed the PDF and laid it beside his father's old gavel on the desk. He wired a discrete camera inside the boundary marker that same afternoon, labeled everything clearly. Then he sent a formal email to the entire board citing state privacy laws and the recent breach. No threats, just facts. Marcus showed up the next morning with 2 coffees and the jittery look of a man who hadn't slept. I shouldn't be here, he said on the porch. But after what she did to Lauren, I saw the footage. She planned it. He handed Ryan a flash drive. Internal stuff. She's rewriting rules after the fact. And she's using HOA funds for her own home security system while fining everyone else for unsightly cameras. Ryan didn't smile. He just opened the folder. There it was, retroactive bylaw edits dated the same day as the bedroom invasion. And a line item for personal surveillance upgrades at 142 Maple Lane, Reggie's own address. The hypocrisy was so thick you could choke on it. Ryan spent the night cataloging everything. Emails, edited bylaws, the spreadsheet titled Tiered Enforcement Recommendations that had their address flagged with notes like delay action, Husband has legal background. Escalate visual presence. Lauren watched from the doorway, voice soft. She didn't just break the rules. She rewrote them to cover her own ass. The twist hit like a freight train the next morning. While reviewing the flash drive, Ryan found an old email chain where Reggie bragged to the board about creative compliance tools. One attachment showed her adult daughter living full-time in the guest house without ever being reported, the same occupancy violation she'd used to terrorize everyone else. Plus receipts showing HOA dues funneled into her personal camera system while she lectured the rest of us about aesthetic standards. Ryan leaned back, adrenaline turning cold and sharp. This wasn't just overreach. This was fraud. He forwarded the entire dossier to Clara Mowen, an old colleague now at the State Office of Civil Affairs. For lines, Clara, this isn't civil code abuse. It's coercive governance dressed up as HOA policy. Need your eyes before the AG gets involved. Reggie called that same afternoon. Private number. Ryan, we need to speak. There seems to be a misunderstanding. I'm extending a courtesy invite to the board's closed session tonight. It wasn't an invitation. It was a trap. Ryan smiled at the phone. I'll be there. He walked into the HOA office at 6:30 p.m. with a black binder and a small audio recorder legal under state law. Reggie sat at the head of the table like a queen on her throne. Thank you for joining us, she purred. Ryan opened the binder and slid the first page across, the retroactive bylaw edit. Call it what it is, Reggie. Procedural fraud. You changed the rules after you broke them. The room went dead silent. Marcus shifted in his chair. Reggie's smile cracked. Where did you get that? Ryan leaned forward. Let's not pretend this room has a monopoly on secrets. You violated your own occupancy rules with your daughter. You used community money for your personal cameras. And you walked into my wife's bedroom like you owned her dignity. Marcus finally spoke, voice steady for the first time. I resign. Effective immediately. I won't be part of this anymore. Reggie stood, face turning purple. You're all feeding into a smear campaign. Ryan just smiled. No smear. Just receipts. And the state's already reviewing them. He walked out, leaving the binder open on the table. Behind him, the scaffolding of Reggie's little empire started to groan. By 9:07 the next morning, the state issued a public notice of investigation into Pinecrest Meadows HOA for procedural violations, discriminatory enforcement, and unlawful invasion of medical privacy. Reggie's name wasn't listed, but everyone knew. The group chat exploded. Neighbors who'd stayed silent for years suddenly remembered they had spines. Ryan and Lauren walked the neighborhood that afternoon. People nodded. One old guy on the corner lot raised his coffee mug and said, "About damn time someone stood up to her." Ryan just replied, "About time we all did." Reggie doubled down, of course. New fines arrived by courier, non-compliance with secondary review. She tried to call an emergency board meeting, but half the members suddenly had prior engagements. Marcus showed up at Ryan's door again that night with more files. She's scrambling. Tried to delete emails. But I backed everything up. Ryan spent the next days preparing for the public hearing Reggie had been forced to schedule. He printed 5 copies of the dossier. Highlighted the daughter's unreported residency. Highlighted the misused funds. Highlighted the spreadsheet that literally categorized Lauren's illness as a strategic vulnerability. Lauren helped him staple each packet, slow but determined. "If you don't come back with answers," she said, sliding the final envelope across the table, "this goes straight to the AG and every news station in the state." At 5 p.m., they walked into the community center together. Every chair was taken. People stood along the walls clutching their own violation notices. Reggie stood at the front in her deepest navy blazer, gavels pinned to her lapel like medals she hadn't earned. The state moderator opened the session with a firm voice. "We are here because of serious allegations." Ryan stood. The room went quiet. He laid the evidence on the table. This isn't about grass height. This is about a woman who weaponized rules against a cancer survivor while breaking every single one herself. He played the clipped audio of Reggie's voice bragging about creative compliance. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone in the back muttered, "Holy hell." Reggie tried to speak. Her voice cracked. "This is a personal vendetta." Ryan cut her off with the calmest smile. "No vendetta. Just boundaries. And you crossed everyone. The moderator scanned the documents, then turned to Reggie. Is this your signature on the retroactive edits? Reggie opened her mouth, closed it, then finally stammered. I'd like to speak to counsel. The room didn't breathe. Then Marcus stood. I'd like to submit additional board notes showing these policies were never voted on. Language was added after meetings. I objected in writing. Those objections were erased. More gasps. A woman near the front tore her violation notice in half right there. Reggie's face went from purple to ash. The moderator announced a 10-minute recess. When they returned, she read the verdict with zero emotion. The Office of Civil Affairs has found sufficient cause for immediate suspension of all enforcement powers. A motion will be filed for removal of sitting board members found in violation. Reggie tried one last desperate swing. You're all being manipulated by one bitter resident. But no one clapped for her. They clapped for Ryan. Slowly at first, then louder, the sound of a neighborhood finally exhaling after years of holding its breath. 3 weeks later, the mailed notice arrived. Effective immediately, Regina Hawthorne is no longer authorized to act in any HOA capacity. No ceremony. No farewell party. Just silence. Her car disappeared from the office lot, and the fear that had gripped Pinecrest Meadows broke like a cheap wine glass. Ryan and Lauren sat in their garden that morning, jasmine blooming thick against the trellis she'd planted during recovery. No more envelopes. No more cameras pointed at their windows. Lauren rested her head on his shoulder. You didn't just win, she whispered. You reminded them who owns the keys. The new board rewrote the charter in plain English. No more retroactive edits. No more weaponized rules. Lauren herself suggested the line that passed unanimously. All governance begins with dignity. Ryan didn't attend the vote. He didn't need to. The neighborhood had finally remembered it belonged to the people who lived there, not the woman with the clipboard. Sometimes justice isn't loud fireworks. It's quiet mornings with no more notices taped to your door. It's your wife sitting in sunlight without wondering who might barge in next. It's the weight lifting so slowly you don't notice until you can finally breathe again. So if some HOA Karen ever knocks without permission, let her. Then show her exactly what happens when the law knocks back. If you want more stories of regular people crushing HOA tyrants, hit subscribe right now. Drop your own nightmare in the comments. I read every single one. See you in the next one, neighbors.